Guitar tips, guitar tips, just the tips, just for you. Guitar tips. Hello and welcome to Guitar Tips and Guitar Tips Pro. My name is Adam Levy. This is my weekly video blog series. I post a brand new tip here each and every week, and that's what makes it weekly. If you're watching the Guitar Tips in sequence, you'll know that last week's tip was called Chord Scale Basics. And we just looked at what chord scales are, how to build them, and how to practice them. This week's tip is called Chord Scales in Practice. And I just wanted to take another look and see how we could use chord scales in making real music and take it from the woodshed into whatever music you're actually making. So the first aspect of that I want to touch on this week is string transference. What is string transference? It's when you take a chord voicing that you know on one string set and you transfer it to another string set. Now, you might be wondering, what is a string set? Really, basically, it's any subset of the 6 strings that we have. So since we've so far been talking about chord scales that are played on 4 adjacent strings, there's really just 3 sets of those. There's string set 1. Here, I'll play something on string set 1. And then there's string set 2. And there's string set 3. So string set 1 is strings 1, 2, 3, 4. String set 2 is 2, 3, 4, 5. And string set 3 is 3, 4, 5, 6. If you were just playing 3-note shapes like triads, then you'd have more possible string sets. And of course, you don't always have to play on adjacent strings. But just broadly speaking, in terms of today's lesson, since we're playing 4-note chords on adjacent strings, there'll be 3 string sets. 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 is 2, 3, 4, 5. And 3 is 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So string transference is taking a chord voicing from one string set to another. So let's look at that. So let's start with F major 7. Let's say you want to take that from string set 2, where it is now, to string set 1. There's 3 steps. Step 1 is to move the grip over. So I just took the grip and I moved it over. And we're not really where we want to be yet because we're in the wrong key and we're in the wrong chord quality, but it's a step. Step 2 is to go 5 frets down the neck, that's towards the nut. So I'm at fret 8, I'm going to go to fret 3. So now I'm in the right key. I've gone from F to F, but the chord quality is not quite correct because of just the quirkiness of the guitar tuning, so we've got to make an adjustment, and that adjustment is step 3. So whatever's happening on string 2, we've got to move it up 1 fret. So we went from here, that's 3, 5, 4, 5, to 3, 5, 5, 5. I'm doing it with this little kind of mini bar. You could certainly do it with separate fingers, whatever is more comfortable for you. It doesn't really matter. What's important here is this 3-step process. So here's F major 7. We go 1, 2, 3, F major 7. And of course you could do that for other chord qualities. Here's F7. You move it over, move it down, and we've got to bring string 2 up a fret. So that's same pitches, slightly different timbre. And there's F minor 7, F minor 7 flat 5, and so on. You could do that with any chord type. Now, let's say you want to go 1 string set towards the bass side, so from string set 2 to string set 3. You would do a similar procedure. The first thing we're going to do is just move the move the grip over. But now instead of going 5 frets this way, we're going to go 5 frets up the neck towards the bridge. And the adjustment, so this is step 1 is just move the grip over. Step 2 is go 5 frets up the neck towards the bridge. And then the adjustment is to do whatever's on the 3rd string has to come down a fret. So we test it out. Is that the same? Sure is. So now we've got 3 different places where we can play the same voicing. Why do we want to do that? Well, one might just be for timbral effect, like we just saw. The actual kind of quality of the sound is different. But maybe more importantly is just that we don't want to jump around all the time to get to chords. If I'm going from F major 7 to B flat major 7, if I stay on the same string set, I've got this big jump. When there's another chord right there that I could just get to. So that's easier than this, right? So that's why it behooves you to be able to do this kind of string transference and to do the groundwork so that you can be really fluent and go to whatever string set is effective in the moment. So let's just now look at how to transfer the other way. So we want to we go over, make that adjustment. We did that already for F major 7. Here's F7, F minor 7, F minor 7 flat 5, and that's essentially string transference. If you have Ted Green's book, Modern Chord Progressions, there's a little short bit in that book in the first chapter about string transference. The next thing is a different kind of string transference. I call it mirroring. I don't know if other guitar players call it that, but it's a way to expand your chord vocabulary through the fact that the 2 outside strings are both, well, they're both E. So you could move a note from one to the other. So let's say you know this F major 7, and you can move this note up here, and you've got another F major 7 that's 3/4 the same, but a very different sound because instead of having this low F, you've got a high F. So I call that mirroring. Okay, so that's a different kind of string transference, but just as valuable. Let's say you've got this F major 7. You could take this high A down here, and you get this voicing. So F major 7 here, F major 7 here. Let's say you've got this voicing. Now we've got the 5th on the bottom. We could move it to the top, and we've got this F major 7 voicing. So different character, but we didn't have to learn an entirely new grip. We just moved something from one outside string to the other. So that's a different thing related to string transference, but mirroring. Okay, so we're going to continue now. One thing I wanted to talk about more with chord scales from last week is cycles. We've done cycle 4, I think, in some other tips, but I wanted to mention that there's other cycles. First of all, let me explain something that everybody may not know about. When we talk about cycles, oftentimes in music theory we learn the circle of fourths or fifths, which is just individual notes. If you're doing fourths, it's C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B, E, A, D, G, C, or you could go the other way, C, G, D, A, E, etc. And those are just individual notes. And that's all 12 notes, that's all the notes that we have. But I often will practice stuff in diatonic cycles. So instead of having all the notes, you just only have the notes of one key. So if we're in C, that would be C, F, and instead of going to B flat, which is a perfect fourth above F, we're going to go to B. because we want to stay in the one key that we're in. So it's not a perfect fourth, but it's a type of fourth. So C, F, B, E, A, D, G, C. And we could do that with chords. So C major 7, F major 7, B minor 7, flat 5, E minor 7, A minor 7, D minor 7, G7, C major 7. And we could practice that as a cycle, and we'd call that cycle 4. You could also do that with any other kind of cycle. So cycle 2 would mean each chord is a second away. So C, a second up is D, then E, then F. So cycle 2 would be like this. Cycle 3 would be C, E, G, B, and that would sound like this. I'm going to go down the neck here. D, F, A, and C. That's cycle 3. Cycle 4 we did E, A, D, G, C. Cycle 5 sounds like this. That's C, G, D, A, E, B, F, C. Cycle 6 would be C, A, F, D, and etc. So that's C, A, F, D, B, G, E, C. And then cycle 7 is C, B, A. So it's basically descending. So C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. Why would you practice in all these cycles? By the way, I'm kind of moving through this quickly, just because my iPhone battery is low as I'm shooting this. Normally you would want to do this with a metronome in time and play these cycles a few times through each. I'm racing through just to give you the basic idea. You don't want to do this because you want to get comfortable moving from chord to chord in a lot of different ways, not just I often practice stuff in cycle 4, but if you look at tunes, there's all kinds of movement within tunes, and you want to be able to go from one chord to any other chord, and cycles is a nice organized way to practice that. You might also find a chord progression that you didn't expect, just going in a direction that you don't normally find. But what's true about all of these chord voicings is that they're all the same setup. So root 5 7 3. Whatever the quality, whether it's minor 7 or dominant 7 or minor 7 flat 5. In all the chords I've played so far, they're all root 5 7 3. And there's a kind of homogeneity to that can be really useful in comping. Comping is when you're accompanying somebody else. So assuming somebody is singing or soloing or doing something that's out front and you're accompanying them, we talk sometimes about voice leading, and what that is trying to get from one chord to the next chord with the smoothest transition from note to note. As you could see, moving around the neck, that may not be the smoothest sound in terms of voice leading, but homogeneity is another way for things to remain smooth as you go from chord to chord. I see students come in sometimes and they have okay chord vocabularies, but when you ask them to play a tune and they're accompanying you, or me really, the chords that they know don't add up to any kind of smooth sound. It's just like, well, here's the one voicing that I know for major 7, and well, now it's a minor 7 flat 5, so I'll play the one voicing I know, or the hottest voicing I know, or whatever. And that can really be distracting when you're singing or soloing or playing the melody or whatever. If you're the person doing the front thing and the chords are kind of all over the place. So even though what we're doing right now seems a little bit all over the place because it's moving around the neck so much, there is a kind of sameness in the sound that I think makes it all kind of hang together. So that's something to think about voice leading is important. It's not the only thing that makes chord voicings hang together with a kind of a flow. Now, one way that you can avoid doing all this kind of jumping around the neck stuff is with string transference. So go back and watch the string transference part of this video again, and then you'll see how you could achieve a similar, we could do like chord scales. Let's say we're doing cycle 6. So we go C major 7, A minor 7. Instead of going all the way up here, we could get the same thing here. So we don't have to jump quite so far up the neck. So C, A, F, D, G, E minor 7, and C major 7. So not quite so much jumping around that way. So you can apply these two concepts together, cycles, diatonic cycles, and string transference. And to put all of that together, I wrote a little comping etude for When Sunny Gets Blue. If you don't know this tune, it's a beautiful ballad. You should get to know it. It's in the real book. You should have it if you have a real book, or if you have iReal Pro, or just access to the internet. You can probably find a chart and a recording of When Sunny Gets Blue. What I've done here is to use iReal Pro to create a backing track, and I turned off the piano part, so there's just bass and drums now. And I'm going to play this little thing that I exported from iReal Pro and play the voicings along with it, using all of these voicings on different string sets. Set, middle string set, low, low, middle, middle. Now I'm going to go to the high string set. Middle, high, middle, high. This recording doesn't have the ending that people always put on at the end. So this would be from the B minor 7 flat 5. I'll just do this with a metronome so you can get the basic idea. Thank you, Google. So same tempo, I hope. 2, 3, 4. So B minor 7 flat 5, B flat minor 7, E flat 7, F6 over A flat flat minor 7, D flat 7, G minor 7, C7. So here's the ending. Different string set, different string set. Okay. One other thing people ask me about, and I realize I haven't really talked about it very much, but neck vibrato. So if you see me shaking the guitar, here's like a more extreme version of it. I'm kind of doing that all the time by just giving the guitar some elbow. It's more noticeable if you play with a lot of reverb. I don't have a lot of reverb on my amp right now, but well, here's what it sounds like if you do. All right, buy papers. Neck vibrato. So a little bit of elbow, a little bit of front and back with, just pushing the guitar neck out and back. Don't go too crazy if you've got a, vintage guitar. You don't want to snap the neck off, but, I've been doing this a long time. I haven't snapped any necks yet. And of course, if you've got a bolt-on neck, don't worry about it at all. Just kind of go for it. Okay, string transference, chord scales, cycles. Apply this to tunes that you like. Apply this to your own compositions. Find ways to bring all this stuff into what you can play, not just some concepts that you breeze over, but really make it part of your vocabulary. That's really the big idea with any of these tips, really, is not just that you sort of get it, but that you really get it, and that you get better at the guitar week after week after week. That's the big idea. So for guitar tips, once again, as always, I remain Adam Levy, and stay tuned and take good care.